What up, everybody? You are now tuned into the Black Ramen Podcast. I am Chatty Patty, aka Madam Straw Hat, aka the Celestial Freaking the Celestial Freaking Dragon. And I have with me.
Hello, this is Sleepy Bree, Tea Sippin' Bree, as always, as usual, and I'm ready to get into it today.
What's up, guys? This is Derby, aka Sexual Chocolate, and it seems like I have some fluff on my video. Fun.
Yo, wait. Before we get started, I just want to say this. No, don't look at me like that, Bree. Don't look at me like that, Bree. It's going to be real quick. I promise. It's going to be real quick. I saw this anime, right? This was on TikTok.
All right, you did.
I saw this anime on TikTok, right? This shit was so fire. Somebody made a clip about it, and it's a cycling anime. And I was like, this shit.
Yowamushi Pedal?
Yowamushi?
Huh?
Yowamushi Pedal.
Yowamushi Pedal?
Yes!
Oh my god.
That shit is
really?
so fucking... Yo, that shit is so
you
good.
are so behind. Right now you're saying, guys, I saw this
know.
amazing anime on TikTok. It's about
I know
tennis
it's
and this
late.
guy who's like the prince of tennis.
Patty, if you look at my wall, there's a poster of Yowamushi on my wall. Like,
Yo, this shit is fire. Wait, hold on. For all the motherfuckers that are on here and didn't see this, and this is a hidden gem. I'm gonna tell you why. Cause I polished.
He made.
Siki.
What?
Yo, it's so funny. I polished
Patty, this is
6
not
episodes.
a hidden gem.
Wait. Wait. Hold on.
Okay, go. I'm sorry, go.
The way this shit hit. So I'm watching the first episode, right? So here comes this dude who everybody making fun of because he's riding a grandma bicycle, which I don't understand the term because my grandma don't ride bikes. So they was like, oh, this is a grandma bicycle. It got a basket on it. He rides this bicycle to the city so he could get his anime merch. So now he's in high school. He's like, yo, there's an anime club. I'm going to make fucking friends. Finally, he goes in the room where the anime club is being held. Anime club canceled. Why? No members. He said, fine. Okay, cool. I'm going to go to the city and just buy my anime merch. Niggas is like, why are you riding your bike? Because I save more money and put it into more merch if I just ride my fucking bike. This nigga riding to the top of his lungs, just singing the best OP from Love Hema. It's not Hina. Love Hema. Princess, love my princess, fight. He's singing this shit. This shit is fucking hilarious.
I'm sorry, did you watch this?
No, I watched it in sub. The words on the bottom. He's really singing princess, love a princess.
Okay.
So now, first of all, that's very disrespectful, Derbs. I'm gonna let that slide. So anyway, so now there's a guy who's amazed by how this nigga is riding uphill. He's a cyclist. He's like, how the fuck you riding uphill, singing a song in the worst bike ever? This is a grandma bike. Finally, the nigga's like, yo, I want to race you because I want to know where you get this endurance from. The nigga says, no, I don't want to race you. Finally, he's like, yo, if you race and you win, I will join the anime club. This nigga got so hyped. He said, what's your favorite anime? Oh my God. When he finally named an anime, I thought he wasn't, but he named the anime. And he was like, oh, I love the way when the writer talks about the realism of it makes it so natural and human-like. I was like, this nigga. This nigga's hilarious. So finally, they do the bike thing. There's so much shit to unpack with just the second episode. The fact that his bike is the way it is, and they're like, how the fuck he's able to ride this fast with the bike being, because they say something about the gears where the chain is, how his parents changed it so he wouldn't ride so fast, and how he's able to just go in his endurance. Like, the shit is so fire. All this for anime merch, and I believe it. I believe this, all this shit, just to have the anime club. This is the type of friends that I want all day long. I would get into anime just for that if I wasn't into anime. Yeah, guys, definitely watch this show. I love this show. I'm 6 episodes in. So, all right. I'm sorry, Brie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. So you're done with that. You're good?
So behind. Patty, it came out a long time.
I know, but still,
really
it's perfect.
did. Again, that is like...
I know, it's a great show. Please go back and watch it. But
That is Kuroko no Basket era and Prince of Tennis era.
Yeah.
You've heard of those, right?
It came out around Kuroko.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how you miss Yawamushi.
I don't know.
Or Yawamura. I can never remember. Is it Yawamushi or Yawamura?
I don't know.
No, it's Yowamushi.
Yawamushi Pedal. Yeah, I gotta get to it, though. It's still on Netflix, right?
Oh.
I don't
Nah,
know.
I'm watching it.
Should
Nah,
be
I'm watching
Crunchyroll.
it, you know. So, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, you're still in the hot
Yeah,
seas.
pretty
I'm
much.
surprised you're not reading it, honestly.
Oh,
But nah,
a whole bag of worms. Thank you, Bree.
So we've got a few things we got to get to today. First of all, Patty had brought up this controversy that sprouted earlier this month about Invincible. I would talk about it, but I honestly have not made it past the first episode of Invincible yet because there's too much blood. Y'all, when I tell you I was
Ridiculous.
traumatized by episode 1, I was watching thinking, oh, okay, this is nice. Oh, this is cool. Blood, guts,
even
head
into the train
squished,
scene.
split in half. I closed out, I walked away and said, that was lovely, thank you. And I have not been back to this day. So I'll let y'all fans of Invincible talk about it more. What's going on, Patty?
Well, with this series, it's actually, well, no one knew that this series was going to be a slam dunk. So this was also a big deal since Robert Kirkman's name is on here. So it's more, can we call it anti-villain type thing? One thing we know for sure that Amazon has done well is definitely made anti-villain story-based shit.
Is it anti-hero?
Anti-hero, not anti-villain. Sorry.
Okay. 'Cause
Anti-hero.
when you say anti-villain, I was thinking like Megamind.
Nah.
He's a villain, but kinda.
I sympathize with his plight. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
But
But
yeah, he's anti-heroes.
Omni-Man's not
this
a hero.
is more like an anti-hero type.
Omni-Man's not a hero
He's
at
not.
all.
I don't know
He
what
was
he
for a
is.
second.
He just exists. To be honest
Nah,
with
he was faking it.
you, he's nothing. He's just like, this is mine now. Matter of fact, what's that shit with that movie with Tom Hanks? Hey, look at me. I'm the captain now. That's exactly what Omni-Man did when he came to Earth. So yeah, this show took over Amazon like crazy. It was on everybody's timeline. Everybody was doing this. It was just an amazing show. So now we have a situation where Robert Kirkman is being sued by another creator from Invincible. So his name is William Crabtree, who says that there was a verbal agreement that Robert Kirkman did not fulfill during the signing of Invincible being signed to Amazon. So they said it's verbal. I don't know. So I don't know if that's going to stand, but what William is saying is that Kirkman promised him a certain percentage of his rights, even though Robert Kirkman told him not to have it on the contract because it's going to be harder for streaming services to pick this up or whatever company that's going to pick this up to actually have it animated. So take that off the table so we can have people, come in and say, okay, we want to pick this up and not think of you wanting your rights as a major threat. And then we'll talk about this later. Okay. Now later comes and Invincible has been a huge success for Amazon to the point that William is sitting there like, damn, I could have made this. And he didn't, which let's keep in mind, he also wrote 40% of the story. Either 40% of the story or no, he was involved with at least 40 issues of the story, right? So now they're in court, which postponed Invincible season 2 from even starting. Like there's not one thing is being animated for this series until this court case is completed. And the documents are here. It looks like he might have a case, but I don't know how long that will last. If I was Robert Kirkman, I would just settle outside of court and say, hey, because Robert Kirkman is not a poor dude. He is the creator of Walking Dead. So he's making some coins. He's making some coins.
Yeah, he's making some coins. In fact, he's not writing the comic itself. For Invincible, he's the producer. So he is like not involved in the comic. He's involved in the animation. He's involved in the show. He's involved in pulling together all the pieces.
Right.
So it's not like these were like co-authors of the comics that were going in. Mm-hmm. It's a guy saying, hey, yeah, I want to help you make your comic an animation in a series. But I'm sorry, Mr. Crabtree, are you stupid? Are you stupid?
Right.
We had a verbal
That shit in
agreement.
writing, yo.
That I don't know
In
how
the
that
same age,
holds.
verbal, you didn't even record it? You didn't have a signature? In the
It
States,
means
you
nothing
gotta
to me.
sign it in blood, authorized by the Queen of England herself, in order for it to be binding.
Right?
So a verbal
Or
agreement
at
is
least
not
have, like,
worth
30
enough. And I
witnesses.
can't stress this enough to other creatives. Guys, figure out how to read contracts, read everything before you sign away your rights. Never trust, oh, this is just what it means. If you can hire your own lawyer, hire it. If you can't, then feel free to always ask for a few days, like, this is the contract? Okay, give me a day or two. I'll get back to you tomorrow or the day after, so you can sit down and go through this line by line. Google is free. If you don't understand some terminology, check it. Never sign something unless you know what you're signing, especially when it comes to something you've been working hard on.
Nah, this has nothing to do with the contract. He agreed to
They
this.
tried to pull some
He
shit.
agreed to this. What was written, he agreed to.
Yeah, because he.
Exactly. He signed away
Yeah,
his rights.
'cause he
To
had
get
an
rid of his
oral
rights,
side agreement.
he had to sign something that said, oh, yeah, y'all can use this, without securing his own bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. So he's mad now because he didn't get what he thought he would get. But if you don't have it in writing what you think you're supposed to be getting, then you don't have much room to stand. He's still done dirty. Like, it's still screwing him over on Kirkman's part. But legally, it's really tough to get
Unless-
out of that hole once you sign away your stuff.
Right.
Yeah, unless, he's lying about what Kirkman said. Like, again, none of us were in that room. Only him and Kirkman know who's telling the truth, so it's iffy.
Very iffy. But like I said, if while the bag is still hot, what I think should happen is Robert Kirkman should just settle outside of court, pay this nigga his money, so we could continue with season 2.
It seems that's what he did with Walking Dead, because he had a lawsuit for that, too, according to this article. And he just settled.
What lawsuit he had? What was this?
Was with the artist in 2012, Tony Moore.
Yes.
Yeah, so it claimed that he tricked him out of his interest in The Walking Dead. So, history is looking kind of shady on your part, Kirkman.
But that's just Kirkman's job. His job is to secure good series that can be made into different kinds of series and to make money off the process. That is what he does.
Yeah,
so if you're approaching him without a friend, you got to remember, it's a work relationship first. Unless you're that cool with him that you're on first name basis with his mom, you're not cool enough to trust a verbal agreement.
No, Walking Dead is his story.
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't the artist.
Honest.
Walking Dead is his story. But my thing is, if somebody puts in work to make your story come to life or whatever, just pay them what they owe. If they want certain rights, give them the certain rights. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it would not even be picked up by.
Because today, look, Patty, this is America. It's all about making as much money as you can, no matter who you have to kind of screw over. Like, hey, I got the work done. You fucked up and did it,
But now you're
get shit
spending
in
more
writing,
money
so
on
I'm not paying
lawyers.
you
But now
extra.
you're spending more money on lawyers when you could have just gave me what you owe. You get what I'm saying?
Here's the thing: he's paying more money on lawyers here, but who knows how many times he's done this? Allegedly done this,
3.
and hasn't had to pay a goddamn dime and has saved money. So
Yeah.
there's like a cost benefit analysis that's happening here, where he's like, yeah, lawsuit here and there, sure.
Yeah.
Again, allegedly, I don't know. I was
No, I hear you, but here's the thing: when you're known for this, who's gonna want to work with you again? Yes, you can make lemons into lemonade, but that's a very expensive lemonade. I'd rather just get some iced tea.
Patty,
You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think it's that expensive. Who's going to work with him again?
No,
Who
that's
knows
what I'm
the name
saying.
Walking
Is it
Dead?
worth it? Is it worth it? Like, say for instance, if I come to Robert Kirkman and say, "Hey, I got a story here, and I want you to produce it," and you're like, "Yeah, you know what?" Robert Kirkman's like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna help you produce it, but I need this. I need you to take your name off this." That's pricey. That is pricey.
Yeah.
So
I think more. It's not so much people aren't gonna work with him again. It's just he's gonna have the reputation of nigga get that shit in writing. Oral agreements don't happen. Like, not with this guy.
okay.
Yeah. And then it'll just, like, if this happens like a third and fourth time, I'm not going to believe anyone who says they had an oral agreement with him. Because I'll be like, nah, You knew better.
But the
if you
balance,
ain't know better, that's on you.
But what you guys are overlooking is if you get with Kirkman, you can be Walking Dead status. You can be Invincible status. You get a little screwed over, but that is a huge opportunity. You might not get as much as you want, but you're going to be getting something. It's not like Crabtree was walking around with some like pennies in his pocket. He got a cut. It wasn't the cut he wanted. It might not have been the cut he deserved, but he walked away with something. So there is a lot of struggling artists who look at that and say, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I'll still go for that. Hell yeah, I'll sign what I got to do, either for this bag or for this publicity to get my work into an animated series on a major platform. Because we don't love Amazon Prime here. We've complained about it a lot of times and how it hides its shows. But it is still a major streaming platform. So a lot of people, more people than you'd really think, are willing to take that loss to still work with him for the sake of the opportunity. Just like for years and years and years, the Hollywood industry had a lot of creepy people. And yet all those like girls would still jump happily over for that opportunity to advance. People would stay quiet about things done wrong to them for that opportunity. So a little bit of money, yeah, that's not going to stop anyone. And I don't think it'll stop him either. Because Kirkland can afford it. He can afford a few lawsuits because he's making so much off of everything else.
Yeah, but you know, I can't. So here's the thing. Robert Kirkman, let's be honest. Yeah, he could turn, you know, water to wine, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, if he's banking on the fact that niggas like me are coming to him with scripts and stories that he could take and make money off of, he's asked out. Because I'm going to say it like this. Yeah, regardless, yes, it's a mainstream. Now it's mainstream and all this shit, my show, right? But I'm not getting paid. Like, there's nothing like getting on the bus and seeing that your anime or your show is plastered on the billboard, but yet you still taking the fucking bus. No, I don't care about none of that. I need what's...
Yeah, but now you can afford your bus pass.
But it's still a fucking bus. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting money into your pocket and you're taking you're telling me like I should just settle for the paycheck. I'm not settling for the paycheck. Pay me what you owe.
Don't want to settle for the paycheck. It's not good to. But some people can't afford not to settle for that paycheck.
But that's not the case for this guy right here. He just sat there and took a verbal agreement. He sat there and took a verbal agreement where he shouldn't have. Let's call a spade a spade. He sat there and did something very stupid. You're taking a word of a man that's not even written down. And prior, he already had a case. You know him having a case prior. And there might be other cases that we're not even seeing in the fucking internet. But the thing is, you still took a verbal agreement. I don't think he took it and said, was like, you know what, I'm going to take this just so I could get my name out there and then I worry about the logistics later. No, this nigga really sat there and was like, you know what, he's going to pay what I owe him, what he owes me. And I trust it. That was nothing. That had nothing to do with I'm gonna take this risk. No, he took the risk by being stupid, not for the fame, just for the word of mouth.
Yeah, Bree, you'd be right if he's definitely lying, and all he has is this contract. Then yeah, I don't know why he's complaining. You accepted what you accepted. It was a shit contract, but you made your decision because you were hungry. That's not Kirkman's fault. Now, if there is an oral agreement, then you're just dumb for taking an oral agreement, but Kirkman is foul for not agreeing to that agreement and not actually paying what you owe. Because the actual deal would then be, hey, I get royalties if you turn this into a show, and I'm not getting that. So I shouldn't have to take the bus because we had a deal that you're not on.
Yeah, it all comes down to...
Oral agreements are legally binding, but it's what you can prove in court.
It all comes down to what was that oral agreement? And that's something we don't know. We don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Maybe there'll be an Invincible season 2. Maybe there won't. Doesn't matter to me because I didn't watch it anyway. Hey.
Yeah. Well, a lot of fans are waiting for this. A lot of fans are waiting for this, and especially how it left off. There's a lot of questions left unanswered, so I'm highly anticipating this. Now, because of the fact that it's being pushed back, Midtown Comics have to take my money. Anyone Comics have to take my money because now I gotta go and get the issues. Gotta go read it. Gotta go read it. And I'm happy to go read it. But you know, another thing too, I kind of like it when my show that I'm really into becomes mainstream and everybody's talking about it. So I like that too. But you know what? It's cool. There's no other way I could have my Sundays with a nice book. a cup of tea, and some nice tights to snuggle into. It's fine.
Right.
It's
And
fine.
that's good. So that'll conclude that portion of our evening. The next up on our agenda, if you had listened to our, not last episode, but second to last, when we went over the Crunchyroll Awards, you might remember I had a little bit of a meltdown, let's say, over something these two insisted upon that I strongly disagreed. So, the topic at hand was To Your Eternity. I had voted for it as the best fantasy of 2021. They had voted it as the best drama of 2021 for the purpose that it was more of a drama than a fantasy. And to me, that blew my mind. And I think, are y'all still sticking to that decision? To Your Eternity.
Oh, 100%.
About the orb that is an immortal that can shapeshift and has to defeat these, like, evil world-destroying monsters is more of a drama than a fantasy.
Yep. Stand by it.
Alright. So that's why I decided I need to hold on that, and we'll get around to it again. So the topic of this main episode, aside from Invincible, is fantasy genre. So we're going to do that thing that we tried before, and it never works out ever, to define a genre, figure out what belongs there, what doesn't, and set some limits. I guarantee by the end of this episode, we will not have agreed or have decided. Like, this is not going to work out. We know it, but we are going to try for your sake, and I will take deep breaths and try not to scream at these fools. So, to start off with, I did some research. I went on the Wikipedias. And let me just say to all of my teachers in middle school and high school and college who said Wikipedia isn't a valid source, get stuffed. I am now a professional in academic publishing, and Wikipedia, I say with full authority, slaps. Wikipedia is great, its bibliography is clean, it cites its sources. I have no issue with Wikipedia. I love it. So after that little homage to Wikipedia, I looked at the entry to figure out what is the rough definition of fantasy. So what it says, you can check this after me, and I think it's a pretty good definition, is it's a form of speculative fiction. Speculative meaning it is not rooted in reality in terms of history or things present in nature. So it's not connected to reality, speculative fiction. That has to do with magic. So there's three main branches of speculative fiction. Loose Wikipedia entry, I know I am generalizing a lot. There's sci-fi, which is
You're
not...
also paraphrasing a lot, but alright.
Stop it. I did my research, kind of. There's sci-fi, which is fiction not rooted in reality with science elements. There's horror, fiction not rooted in reality with creepy elements. And then there is fantasy, fiction not rooted in reality with magical elements. So that is the rough, loose definition of what a fantasy series is. And there are so many different kinds, which is a lot of fun. But the other interesting is, like, it's so broad, right? Like, there's so many things to say about it. Like, I have read some stories where I'd say, oh yeah, this is a fantasy. And I've seen things tagged as fantasy, but then I read them. I was like, yeah, that, if I was craving a fantasy story, this didn't get that itch. But I think my main issue is when we say fantasy, especially in terms of anime, we're thinking about one very, very, very specific type of fantasy. Like, when I say it, what do you guys think of in terms of shows you watch, settings you'd expect?
So, for me, a fantasy is going to be, like you said earlier, it's not rooted in reality. So, like, the beings that exist in the fantasy world don't exist. There's potentially a magic system, not necessarily, but for the most part, usually there is a magic system that dominates that world. So these are like two major aspects I absolutely need for me to start saying, okay, this is a fantasy. Like, if it's just, okay, this takes place in medieval times, and I'm like, but that's it, then this is just a fictional story that takes place in medieval times. I'm not calling this fantasy. just because it's about a blacksmith in medieval times. It's like, this is not a fantasy show.
Well, if it's just a blacksmith in
There are no
medieval times,
dragons.
there's no magic. But it could be. Because, for example, what I had immediately put up
Some
against
people would
that...
argue it could, but I disagree.
What I'd immediately put up against that is King Arthur and the Holy Grail, or the Sword and the Stone. Fantasy, yay or nay?
There is a magic store. There's a magic sword and a stone. There is a Merlin with magic.
Is that a
Stop.
magic system? Okay, then what the heck is a magic system?
There's a whole
There just needs to
island
be a
called
mage somewhere.
Avalon in King Arthur. It's a magic island filled with fairies. You cannot tell
So
me
it's a
you
fantasy.
missed that. Yeah.
So you're fantasy, it's not a drama?
In King Arthur's story.
I mean,
It's more
It's
fantasy.
more
than
fantasy
Oh,
than
drama.
interesting. So, in the story, where there is a godlike being who drops a magical orb that magically shapeshifts into different creatures and is magically immortal and has to battle the magically, vaguely immortal knockers that are set to destroy the world.
but we were.
That's not fantasy.
Let me just say this.
That's
Can I
not the
say this?
argument.
Can I say
See,
this?
The argument is not that it's not fantasy. It's that it's more drama than
You
fantasy.
didn't find out about who he had to fight with until like episode, I don't know, 13 or 10. The one thing that everybody came into agreements with after the first episode is the emotion that we felt after the death of not the main character, but one of the characters. That was it.
Every good story has emotion. But pause on that then. Sorry, I distracted us from the question. So Derby said he needed mainly a magic system in that world. Patty, what about
It
you?
needs
When
to
I
be
think
something
of
that could never have happened in real life.
nothing that could happen in real life with a magic system in that world. Patty, what about you when you think of
Most
fantasy,
likely a magic
specifically
system,
fantasy
yes.
anime or fantasy shows animation?
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with Derby. That's what if
Well,
it has
I
to
want
be, if it
don't
has to
just
be,
agree with him.
No,
Use
that's
your words. What do you think? What comes to your mind?
that's what I come to my mind. What you mean? Like if I think about fantasy, I'm thinking about okay, magic. I'm thinking about okay, you gotta do a whole system based on the outcome as far as like okay, certain rules are set in place based on a magic system. You have to for you to get this, you have to do this. Like anything that has to do with a guild, anything that has to do with you leveling up by experience, by fighting, that's more fantasy based for me. But when I say drama, if I'm feeling for the individual and don't even care what world they're in and they're not making the world the main factor, the main component of the story, and I'm just feeling for the character himself or herself, that's more drama, felt for me. So fantasy would definitely have to be focused on the world within itself, the multiverse, all that shit, or magic, whatever. That means nothing can happen unless you fall in line with the rules of that is set in place. Magic, fantasy, that's the shit for me.
Magic and fantasy. Okay, then let me put one in front because you specifically said guilds and such. So this, everyone can take an opinion on it. Fullmetal Alchemist, fantasy, yay or nay? Because it's set in a world that's not connected to reality, and it technically does have a magic system through alchemy and alchemy. But would you really call that a fantasy then? Technically, I would say yes, it fits.
Yeah, it fits, but again, we're falling into that thing where this is definitely still a fantasy. It should have that tag on there. It shouldn't be the first tag. It shouldn't be the first genre you associate with it. And especially because this one I would feel falls more into sci-fi, which I think I read somewhere today while I was doing my research, that sci-fi is more of a subgenre of fantasy, and it could just be called what is a modern fantasy. So instead of magic, it's just science.
No, not at all. There's such thing as modern fantasy, especially in terms of like urban fantasy. Or even sometimes steampunk can vaguely fall within fantasy, but I wouldn't call it modern.
Again, I'm not saying I'm saying that it is a type of modern fantasy, not that it is the end all be all of modern fantasy.
But I think the thing is, with fantasy, that would make me disagree with having that sci-fi and fantasy. To me seem like different things, because sci-fi uses science to make something that can plausibly branch off of reality.
Yeah.
While fantasy is just completely cut off. It's not plausibly branching off into a realm that doesn't exist. It is, now things are magic. That's it. So I would hesitate to say that sci-fi is a branch of fantasy.
I think it's a branch of fantasy.
Okay.
I think Dune is fantasy.
I never read or watched it.
All right, so take my word for it. It's fantasy.
Well, tell me about it.
I mean, it's about people who can't come up to the surface, right? And you have other people from other realms and other galaxies who come and try to take over and do some shit that they're not supposed to do. But they're more like, you get some aliens in there, you get some, people with 3 titties or whatever. But no, I'm sorry, that's Total Recall. My bad. That's Total Recall. But
Patty, they have like prophecies in there, and I consider that part of it.
Yeah, see, there it is. I think, but I think, to me, I think fantasy and sci-fi should be one and the same. I really do, because it definitely affects the world building around the story. Anything that affects the world building around the story should be fantasy based. Like, if it's magic and sci-fi, yes.
That once again puts To Your Eternity under more fantasy, but we'll get to that. So the other thing I wanted to,
I mean, you could put in more fantasy when you get to episode 13, but I'm saying nobody's talking about the world building when we watch episode 1 and 2. Everybody's talking about the drama.
World building.
And nobody's talking about the magic. No one's talking about. Hold on, let me say this. I think you're getting too technical on everything else about what's happening to the orb and how it became to manifest to what it is. Nobody's denying that, yes, this thing came from whatever it came from and became this. What you're not realizing is that everybody's more focused on the connection it had with everybody else, not the fact that where it came from. That doesn't fall into play until we get the nigga with the hood who pop up and say, hey, this is the mission that you had to do in the process of growing up. Nobody is no one's like emphasis on, well, this was an orb. No, we're thinking about the connections that he made, the connections he made with the old person, the old lady, the connection he made as a dog to the owner when he started traveling. You're not thinking about the fact that this nigga was an orb. You're thinking about the fact that this nigga just left his house and went up north to get with his family. This nigga is sick. But that
is the thing. That is exactly that makes me disagree. And I'll just
Why
say
makes
this,
you disagree?
And we'll keep circling back to To Your Eternity. This is practically a To Your Eternity episode. But the entire theme of this that you're saying is all about the connection to the people he meets. Yes. The theme is immortality. That he has to keep on going while the people around him constantly
Did we know that?
Constantly face
Did
sickness,
we know that in the beginning?
Face illness.
Did we know that
at the beginning? The very first thing we hear is, here's an immortal orb I'm dropping into the world. So we knew.
Did we know his purpose?
Him taking these different forms.
We didn't know his purpose
as he goes.
He just landed. Nobody knew his purpose or his mission till episode 10.
That is the theme. It's called To Your Eternity, implying that there is one single character who faces eternity, and every time we lose someone,
so what's his purpose?
Because we know he can't do shit about it. He'll be fine, no matter how the people around him die.
No, you just know he's immortal. You don't know his mission. You don't know his mission at all.
It doesn't matter what his mission is. He's immortal.
Yes, it does. You just said that. Oh, it's in the title. That's his mission. You just said that his title, his mission, it all intertwines for you to know what the fuck the mission was. He's just a being.
The mission doesn't matter. It's the fact that he is immortal that drives the entire story. But
no, it does not. Nobody cares about that.
On that, Patricia.
No, nobody cares about that. Everybody's caring about the emotional connection he has with each character. No, him being immortal.
We gotta get back to it. Patty, we gotta keep going, or else we'll be on this. We gotta hit everything. So the other thing you had said was, to you, fantasy had involved a lot of those like level up elements. Fantasy world building. Oh, no. Level up elements, especially with magic systems. And that's something I notice when people say fantasy, especially us English-speaking audiences, we immediately think of Western fantasy. We think of knights, castles, mages, witches, priests, elves, orcs. And part of that, isekai does a lot of that nonsense. In fact, notice how so many isekai look exactly the same. In fact, there are certain pre-made set characters a few animators use, and then they'll just throw them into a different anime, so you can actually spot them across anime. Mm-hmm. Because they have this exact same setting. That's why people say that everything kind of looks like Kirito, or everything looks like generic medieval fantasy land, except the main girls switch their hair colors and eye colors.
Mm-hmm.
We are so used to that specific kind of fantasy, so especially like MMORPG fantasy, level up, acquire new skills, that I think a lot of times our brains become limited to that, especially in terms of when someone says fantasy, and that becomes biased. Like, for example, 100% Inuyasha is a fantasy. It is separate from reality, alternate lane in which magic and exist through spiritual powers, and there are mythological creatures in the form of the different demons. That is a fantasy, but Inuyasha would not be the first thing you necessarily think of when you think fantasy, because we're so used to Western fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so interesting.
I'll give you that, sure, but it is like, but no one's gonna fight you on whether or not it is a fantasy. Like Inuyasha, you'll take one look at it and be like, and somebody will tell you, "Hey, this is a fantasy," and you'll go, "Oh yeah, fantasy does include more than dragons."
Right. Mm-hmm. I think
no problem.
That's what really stumbles people. People don't notice that as much. Like, even me sometimes, I'm say fantasy, I don't think of that right away. I know Chinese novels have this entire xianxia genre of fantasy that has its own different magical systems that we never see. It's not, acquire skills based like you might see in Reincarnated as a Slime.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So that made me think is how like different fantasies rely on different religions, and can you make something about a religion vaguely without it being like kind of creepy and weird to do? Like, I'm thinking in the case of, say, a culture's mythology. Like, would you consider Moana or Hercules a fantasy story?
Yes.
Yes. The same way I would consider, like, the video game God of War a fantasy.
Good game. Good game, though.
It's still fantasy. It's a great game. Great series. So, yeah, like, it feels iffy to say, because it feels kind of fucked up to say that about somebody's religion. It's like, yeah. But it's a fictional world based around your religion with extra elements added or removed. So it's not exactly your religion, so calm down. So yeah, it's fantasy. Moana, Hercules, still fantasy.
Alright, then what about, like, supernatural? The supernatural stuff?
TV show?
Yeah, TV stuff, and, like, the details of that itself. For example, is Twilight a fantasy?
It's a fantasy of pure garbage. Yes, it was.
Yes, but
that shit was trash. That shit was toilet paper. Like, and the reason I can say that is I read the book. Yeah, it's trash. Not most vampire stuff because...
Yeah, I think most vampire stuff is fantasy. No,
okay, not trash, fantasy, yeah. Because, I think Anne Rice is the only true vampire writer ever. Interview with the Vampire, Lestat, all that shit was fire. But Twilight was... Whew, and I read every single... Man, you know what I could have been doing reading all 4 of them thick-ass books?
Cover to cover, back to back.
Shit was true.
I
don't know how I did it either.
I watched one 2-hour movie, and my eyes hated me so much.
Shit.
Like, how could you do that to us?
I man, listen.
But yes, most vampire stuff is fantasy.
Most definitely.
I would
most
say.
definitely.
Without.
All right, so I think that more modern fantasy than what Derby you were saying about sci-fi being modern fantasy. Because you can see how like they're totally different. Yeah. There's no scientific explanation for why they're vampires. Well, like Back to the Future, yeah, he says I built a time machine out of like metal and stuff, and boom, sci-fi.
Right, it is plausible to build a time machine. Mm-hmm. His science is obviously wrong because I'm sure somebody tried it and it didn't
I think
work.
Jeff Bezos has one, but he's not telling us. So,
I mean, why would he? Then we'd go back and be the billionaires and not him.
True.
That'd be silly.
Ugh. Okay.
He just took my money this week for Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. Very sad about it.
But
so I feel like through all this, we have laid out absolutely nothing. Just basically, if it has a bit of magic, it's sci-fi. Or it's fantasy. Just like a little something separate from reality. It's fantasy.
No, you say a little something.
You need a lot of something?
Decent amount. I need a decent amount of magic before I call it fantasy. Like, if there's just, like, one magical element, like, if the King Arthur thing only had one magic sword, no dragons, no Merlin, I'd be like, I don't know. It's just a really good sword. There's no one to actually enchant this sword. It was just a heavy sword that people just called magical. So that's different.
Well, the difference between
So it has to be heavily influenced by magic. Oh my gosh, Avatar is a fantasy. I'll put that out there. That just makes me happy to think. So, are there any series you can think of where, there's like that single magical element, but you wouldn't consider it fantasy?
Like, if you cannot get a viable show out of it without the magical elements, then it's a very weak fantasy. Like, if there's nothing else to it. So, like, if I were to remove the magical elements from To Your Eternity, the show doesn't work. If I did the same for Avatar, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Because now you just have this random 12-year-old running around trying to stop the Fire Nation. It's like, you don't have an army. Stop. Go home.
I mean, the fact that, all right, if the little boy existed and he wasn't into your eternity, if he existed and he wasn't immortal, and we see him go through this journey, I think the show would still exist. I think it would still be a good show. It just would take away the fantasy.
I don't think so, because how do you make the plot line? Because I think he's not a little boy. That was a form he took. So if it was just a marble laying on the ground, it wouldn't. Even if he was just
it would just be a little boy. If he was just a little boy and he did
so just like a random kid stumbling around?
Yes.
Not even like a little boy. Like, you could replace Fushi with you don't even have to replace Fushi itself. Like, you could replace Fushi with just an assortment of different characters that just happen to be there at the time. And the show would still kind of work.
I mean, look at Google. Google was able to establish his story, his connection with his brother, and the connection with the girl without even the main character being in it fully and being exposed. We all worried about Google and how he grew up.
If you chop off the first few minutes of the first episode and then, like, I guess, like, the last minute where he transforms into the boy.
So just a boy and his dog as the boy slowly dies?
Exactly. Is that still a good show?
Yes.
But then you won't be able to get to the second episode because it'll still just be a random dog wandering around the wilderness.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
No, because here's the thing. You can make it like an anthology with, like, Black Mirror, and it would still work as a show. Where it's just that's why I said an assortment of different characters that are just there throughout eternity. And it just keeps jumping timelines, and it's just a different story each time. So, like, you just make the sister more competent when it comes to Mind's storyline, and it still works out fairly similar. Eventually, she gets Mind back, and Mind dies on the way back home. Still works. Still emotionally heavy. Still good. So you can pull out a Full Metal instead of a Full Metal Brotherhood.
I'm thinking. So the first bit with Fushi, it's just a boy and the dog sees the boy die, and then probably the dog itself dies in the wilderness from its injury. So everyone dies. With mine, it's just a random colt in the woods. She gets rescued. So you're saying pretty much remove Fushi entirely from the story, and it's just an anthology of this old civilization and people having bad things happen?
And it's still a good show. It's not the show that we watched, which is why the fantasy elements are necessary, but the dramatic elements are really what's carrying the whole show.
The overall plot fall through? Because then there wouldn't really be a plot. It would just be, here's a sad thing that happens, and then they die. And here's something that happens.
That could still be a plot. That could still be a plot.
Because, Brie, it's still throughout eternity. That's all that needs to happen. It just needs
bad things happen throughout eternity?
Yes, look what we're living in right now. It's 2020 and shit is getting worse. Yes.
Hold on, Brie, it's the same way Black Mirror works. It's just fucked up shit happening throughout this world for whatever reason. None of the characters are the same. They're not really repeating. People have tried to combine the worlds. It kind of works, but doesn't really. There's like little Easter eggs.
Let me just say this, right?
But I feel like after Gugu, won't there not be any more episodes? Because the entire island arc happens because Crazy Chick knows Fushi's immortal.
If you're a good writer, you can make it go.
I guess you would just see them all continuously living on the island.
Nah, if you're a good writer, you can make it go.
Be boring without that through line. No. There's nothing to connect at all.
Nah.
No, she'd probably just die in the gladiator fights just like her dad.
That's it.
Like, That's all that would happen in that Gladiator Island.
I mean, if she was able to take down the monarchy in that island, and people say fuck it, half people say, okay, let's take this island and make it into what it's supposed to be, and then the other half is like, I don't want to stay in this island. Let's go venture out and see my parents that they kidnapped me from. That could have been another story too. You can't.
So, Brit, for yeah, go ahead. Patty, sorry.
I'm just saying that there's so many possibilities for each character that's being introduced. You can't just stop, because you're saying that, okay, I see what the argument you're trying to say. You're trying to say, well, if he wasn't immortal, there would not be no story, or how can this continue? This will stop here. There's so many possibilities, and this is one of the reasons why this story was so good, because it opens doors, it opens other storylines for you to get to know other characters. It doesn't focus and center around the fact that he is immortal. That is just sugar on your tea. That's just a little flavor. Yeah. That's it.
Dang, I'm really getting pissed now, because I think I'm very reluctantly, like, it physically pains me to slightly agree with you, because I'm thinking, if you really remove all supernatural elements, there's no god, no Fushi, and no knockers, then it would just be an anthology, a really, really sad anthology, like, that makes your heart hurt, but, like, just straight up hurt, because every single one is a terrible tragedy, like a boy and his dog, and then the boy slowly dies after you come to, like, care for him and feel sad, like a little girl who almost gets rescued from being sacrificed, but then still dies anyway. An island where a girl has dreams of escaping, but it does not work out.
And she dies in the gladiator ring, just like her dad did.
So, like, you're right. The emotional writing is strong enough that it could still be a great series to watch. Mm-hmm. If they're just, like, all little separate shots of, I guess, mortality.
It definitely changes the story.
Right, because it wouldn't be that, like, constant. It wouldn't be a consistent story all the way through, but it would still be a pretty decent series. I would not watch it for shit, because I care about my mental health, and that's just sad all the time.
Yeah, this would literally just be like, yo, this. I mean, it's what you watch it for now. It's still just sad all the time.
I know, but Fushi makes me feel better.
Yeah, it's like you have something tethering you to.
I mean, we have
someone that you know. Okay, will always kind of survive.
I mean, but we had countless amount of time on this show where we said that if you're gonna watch this, you need another feel good anime right after. And we've always said that. This show was never meant to be something happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, but you'll need therapy after.
I mean, my therapy is my anime. I'm sorry. It's a lot cheaper.
No, but Patty, But Patty, without Fushi, you need therapy after this shit.
Yeah,
if there was no Fushi, it would be way too sad.
I mean, it was never happy to begin with. We had some happy, we had some sad elements altogether. But like I said, like we've all made it perfectly clear, this would still continue on and be a story if it wasn't so, like if it wasn't based around. It still is not based around the fact that this nigga is an orb and immortal. So.
Right, I think the orb is just, that immortal thing is just what makes it one coherent story instead of a bunch of completely separate ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could exist as completely separate ones and still be strong. Really difficult to watch, but strong. But yeah, dang, I don't like either of you. Y'all suck. I think we're going to have to end this. Y'all suck, but fine.
It's just that it's more drama.
High five.
But there is one last thing that...
Thank you.
Really? Really? Y'all doing that?
Yeah, we're doing that.
But the area that is still keeping my sanity, that makes me disagree with you slightly, this is the final thing we'll discuss, is what makes you put one genre in front of the other. Because we have listed a bunch of things that, like, yeah, I consider that fantasy. And we listed a bunch of different kinds of things, like medieval fantasy, there's Chinese fantasy, there's like Japanese traditional fantasy, there's like Christianity-based fantasy, there's mythology-based fantasy. But if I am looking and I say, ooh, I want a fantasy story, and I see a tag and I click on it and I look at the first thing and I watch it, what would I be disappointed? Because that's not what I asked for. Like, for example, yes, technically that's fantasy. But that wasn't really what I was looking for in terms of this, that, or the other.
So it goes back to the last point I made, which is what can you remove and it still works well. So, for example, Yona of the Dawn. if you remove all the fantasy elements of Yona of the Dawn, it still works as an action adventure show.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
So I put action adventure first.
Right, instead of fantasy.
Before I put
Right,
fantasy.
got you.
If you remove all the romance, action adventure still holds the show. So that goes before romance. And I think I was looking at like the tags on Anime Planet, and I think romance was after fantasy, and I like fair, because I think the romance portion I've only added after years of watching Rule 34. So that's the only reason I fully believe there's romance all the way through this, and I'm like, oh no, it's kind of light actually in the show. So that's how I would decide which one goes first. Which one can you live without for the show to still work?
A lot of shows are flexible in that they can live anyway, but I kind of get it. For example, in Full Metal Alchemist, if you remove the alchemy, can the show still work? There's still the whole military story, but the focus on these two brothers who are trying to regain something that they lost wouldn't necessarily work if you remove the idea of the taboos and how two kids can become child soldiers.
Right.
So that, yeah.
So for that one, it's fantasy before it's the military.
And most isekai, you can't really remove the isekai portion. In good old fantasy shoujo, it is impossible to remove the fantasy portion unless someone just like knocked out his best friend and gave him like a medical sex change, and then threw them in a foreign country.
Yeah, that could work.
What? No,
That's how you would have to do it.
But then in that case, literally fantasy shoujo could be considered not a fantasy because you can remove the fantasy elements. If you're creative enough, you can always remove the fantasy.
But it wouldn't work. That's the dilemma. It's like you remove the fantasy elements, but you don't really change much else. Does it work? Not really. Like you kind of have to make a whole new plot for it to work.
But into your eternity, you do have to make some new plots.
No, the story can still continue.
Accidentally, the world just kind of works itself out.
Yeah, pretty much.
This one is you have to add in this other antagonist who's gonna make a sex change and drop them on an island.
Yeah, like we
to
said.
Your eternity, I'm not like, okay, now Fushi finds a way to go over there, and I'm like, no. It's just Fushi never makes it there, so obviously they never escape. The world just works itself out to work.
And it would still be an interesting story.
Exactly.
Yeah, if that wasn't the key element of the story, then it would be a problem. But it's not the key element of the story. It's just something added. Yeah. That's it.
And right now I'm saying, like, if you try to remove the action adventure elements from Yona, which is my go-to example right now, then the whole show kind of falls apart. Like, you need like major rewrites, like all hands on deck to like rewrite this whole show to work. Not just, all right, bring in like 2 writers and let's figure something out.
Okay, fine.
Right.
I'll reluctantly say. Yeah. So the main one would be something that cannot be removed without changing the story.
Exactly.
Then I think my last remaining issue, I know I said the last one was my last one, is with you guys putting it in drama instead of
What you mean,
fantasy.
you guys? You've been talking to Derby this whole entire time. I'm just mute. Go ahead. Bye.
Yeah, that's because you're not saying anything. Speak up, chick, if you got something to say.
What can I say? Y'all going back and forth like y'all was really going in, and y'all was like, Patricia not here, Patty's not here. Let's go. You didn't even ask me my opinion on what makes it. You sat there and asked Derby, what's your opinion? I even said Derby go first. You didn't come back to me. You went and rebutted what Derby just said. You didn't ask me my opinion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is now
Yo, Patty really acting like she don't have the loudest voice on this podcast.
No, I'm not arguing with y'all. Go ahead. This is made for great content. Go ahead. I'm just here.
Okay.
Dang,
you made me lose my dang train of thought. Oh yes, that was it. My issue with y'all putting it still in the drama category instead of fantasy is drama is so freaking broad. I would say if something can be put in a more specific category, it should be put in that more specific category. Because drama just means you feel stuff watching it and it doesn't have any other specific elements. Everything has drama, but sometimes it has drama and action. Sometimes it has drama and romance. Sometimes it has drama and comedy. Sometimes it has drama and fantasy. So I would reserve that drama category for the ones that does not fit in more specific categories. So do you think drama is a valid category on its own, separate from fantasy?
So-
Like I already said, sci-fi and fantasy, they're not the same. They're different. They have their differences. Drama and fantasy, drama is just an emotional show.
Yes.
So when I think of drama,
So
I would definitely
when
think it has a heavy emphasis on the relations between the characters, and that is the main driving plot.
It doesn't
But
have
if
to
you
be the
add
main
something else to
driven
that
plot.
main driving plot, then I would put it in that subcategory. So I think a subcategory is a clearer definition of a show than a broad category like that.
No, I totally disagree. So here's the
No,
thing.
she says.
If it's emotionally driven, it can still be a category and not be so broad, because here's the thing. If you're feeling something for the character, that's fine, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there is still fantasy in said story. You know, it just gives you more feeling than you being more invested into the world. That's it. You can still say, okay, this is more drama felt than fantasy. I feel like To Your Eternity is more drama felt than fantasy, because after he became the dog and he became the boy, I fucking forgot he came from a spear. Like, I totally forgot. I was more worried about the journey. I was One Piece, praise Oda. But I was more worried about the journey than and the connections that he was making than where he came from. Because I feel like the reason that To Your Eternity is so big and so influential when it came out was because it betted on the fact that it will get into our heartstrings. But it never forgot where it came from. It is fantasy. This boy is still immortal. But I feel like driven in the emotional standpoint of the story doesn't take away from the fact that it's still fantasy, and it can still be driven. It can still be emotional drama first, and then sci-fi or fantasy, or however you want to call it. I feel like for you to try to put it in one set box takes away from the fact that a story can be infinite, can be everything, or it could be just one thing. But for you to try to label it and put it into one box, I feel like you're just kind of putting it all in something that is not going to fit in, and it shouldn't fit in.
Really? So it's one of those ones that cross genres. You would say for To Your Eternity? And I've seen stuff like that. Like, for example, Yuri on Ice. Yeah, it's BL. Yeah, it's sports. Yeah, it's romance. But it doesn't really necessarily fit into one of those categories.
No, it doesn't. But if you had to pick the first tag that it had to be on, what would it be?
Romance.
Okay.
Romance, easily.
Yeah, but romance is
With
such a broad
sports
thing.
anime,
Do you
close-
think that
close
it could
following.
fit into the subtitle of the other stuff, since romance could be in any fucking genre?
Drama. Yeah. okay. Well, then how about this one? Give me your top 3 or 4 tags for Vivi.
Vivi? Ooh, perfect, perfection.
First
That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
sci-fi first?
Yeah, I would say sci-fi
Sci-fi
first. Yeah, I
first.
would say sci-fi first.
She's an android who time travels.
And sings.
Sci-fi first.
Sci-fi first.
But not
Music
drama?
second.
Music second.
Drama would be
What
like
about
third.
action?
You're right. Action would be third. Action and music are interchangeable, but sci-fi is definitely first.
Yeah, sci-fi.
I would downgrade music, and I'd say sci-fi action drama music.
Okay, sci-fi action music. I can. Live
I mean,
with that.
it's the, you
And
can't take
that'll-
away from the fact that she's singing though. Like you could put it on the third tag, you could put it on the fourth tag. It's still a musical sensation. Like it doesn't matter.
It's a musical sensation, but like I was saying earlier, you remove all the music. From
It would still
Vivi,
be great.
It's not as good, but it's still.
Nah,
a
I
good
think it
show.
would still be
Yeah,
good.
it's still super strong. If she was like
Yeah.
a cleaning android,
Yeah.
my job is to make the world
Exactly.
clean.
Yeah, pretty much.
But like, for
Exactly.
example, if you're doing like Kono Oto, you can't remove the music.
Yeah.
Or no to make
Music
counterbell. Force
first.
the piano without the piano.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
I would put it
It'd
less
be
compared
silly.
to those, because I also have to consider it from a comparative standpoint.
okay.
then
I
what
got
about
one
this?
for
Odd
you.
Taxi.
I Taxi. Wait. Before we go, I Taxi. Hold on. I got one for you. Your Lie in April. What's the first tag on Your Lie in April?
Drama.
That one's actually tough. Yeah,
I'd say
would be
drama
first.
music. Slice of life.
Yeah,
Damn, you're not even gonna
Drama
put
music,
romance in the
nah.
first 3?
romance would be like last.
Yeah, it's not a
there.
great romance. It's a really shitty romance.
Like they don't get together. You know, like the confetti. Yo, I think we had this on the last episode where we were saying like, what was it? That's not really a romance because they haven't confessed to each other yet.
Oh, we talked about.
Yeah,
so
Komi
she
can't communicate.
dead.
I'd say I don't need them
Yeah,
to
she don't
confess, but
confess
I
till she
need a lot of
dead.
it to be driven by their romantic feelings, either on
True.
one side or both sides.
Okay.
Because,
I
like,
guess
in
technically both of them
Inuyasha,
had
they
it
don't
in
really
their
confess. They
heads.
don't really get anywhere besides Kagome, Inuyasha. But
They
I'd
have
slap a romance
babies.
tag on that. Just for all the
Yeah, same.
angst and romantic nonsense they get up to without actually being together.
I mean, the creator
True.
made it
But
perfectly
that one,
clear that she
Your Lie in
making
April
fun of
definitely dropped
romance anime. That's why she made it the way that she did.
It's parody, too. I'd slap
Yeah.
parody on there.
So-
But yeah, because it has that, even though they don't really get together or confess anything, a lot of their interactions are driven by romantic intentions. Your Lie in April, not really. Especially until,
That's
like, you
more
get to the
admiration.
very end and feel it.
Okay, wait. So Your Lie in April, what's the
Like,
first
most of it is
category?
admiration for his skill.
Drama, because yeah, that's drama. Drama heavy,
Yeah,
and then
drama
heavy
definitely
music.
then.
Music is very close, but it's still drama more.
Yeah.
Wait, so
If you remove
music
the
is
whole
more,
like sickness thing,
So music is more into second when it comes to Your Lie in April, but Vivi, music is third or fourth?
yeah, because
can't
it's not that much.
Yeah.
Like that's important to her character, but it's not driven by the music in the same way that you have whole montages of them practicing songs in order to
Yeah,
attend the
but-
music competition.
Yeah, but one of her assignments as an android is to become one of the best singers so she could become the android to visit at the park. That's how
Again,
her,
but
that's
I
her
really feel like
calculations.
it is, but if you
wouldn't
switch her with the
change
cleaning
anything if she
robot,
was
she
a
can
different
still be
one.
driven. What does it mean to be clean?
Yeah, but then that'd be
Be
different.
pristine.
That'd be different. But she is literally programmed to be a singing android, not a fighting
Yeah, but
one.
I
It just
feel
so
like-
happens.
but
It's
Android,
theme. It's like music themed without necessarily being a music anime. If I was watching as a music anime, I'd be a little disappointed.
Oh, then
Like,
you don't
it's
have
there.
any
It's
nice
got the
ears.
music,
The
but-
music is amazing. It's music, like it's heavily music themed. Like we got 4 OPs in
The
4
music is
episodes.
Yeah,
amazing,
but it's
but-
not really as much of the plot.
How is
It's
it
not
not the
driven
plot?
by her trying to understand. That's like in her own mind, part of her character. But it's not driven by the plot in the same way that, like I said, in Kono Oto, they learn to play this instrument. Most of it is them practicing, them getting people to play with them, playing competitions. So their end goal is to achieve this achievement or goal. Wow, I'm using so many different words. To achieve something in relation to their music career. Like the end
But
of it
that's
is
not
this
her
big
goal,
music
though.
competition. Her end is saving the world. Her
But sh-
primary mission is saving the world.
But that
Inside,
was
she's like,
forced
yeah, I care
upon
about
her.
music.
That was forced upon her and Vivi.
But that's
her
the
whole
plot
thing
of the
is
story.
to finish.
The
No,
plot
her
of
whole
it-
plot.
if
Her
you're
whole thing to
describing
finish the
Vivi to
story.
someone-
Wait,
Let me
Bree.
talk. If you're
Bree. No,
describing
because I
Vivi
let
to
you
someone-
speak. I let you speak. The whole point
Thank
of the
you.
whole mission was her to finish, so she can get back into practicing to become the singing android that she wants to be. She's not caring about okay, if I don't do this, this will happen. If I finish this, will you leave me alone? That's what she's focused on with the teddy bear.
That's
'Cause
when you analyze her character.
her main focus is to make sure that she's the headliner for the fucking circus or the fucking
But
theme
when
park.
you're describing it, so if you have one sentence to describe Vivi to someone, it's not going to be, it's an android who's trying to understand what it means to sing. It's going to be an android who time travels in order to stop the robot apocalypse.
No, that's not what the
That
synopsis
is the main
And
premise of
also
the
she-
series.
And also she's saying,
And yeah, it's a
It's
singing
gonna be an
android who
addition,
time travels to
but
see if
it's
she can
also
stop
gonna
the
be-
apocalypse. But singing isn't her main form of attack. She downloads combat for that. Her
Yeah,
singing
she has
is
to
just
download
her
combat
internal
for that.
sugar
It's not
makes her
embedded in
deeper,
her-
but it's not the premise.
it's not embedded in her fucking her whatchamacallit, her as a robot. She's literally function is to just be a singer. Everything else
But
she
no
had to
one
download.
else
and
cares
become.
about
The
singing.
arg-
It's only her. The rest of the
Patty.
story, the rest of the characters, even the robot himself doesn't give a fuck about her songs. It's yo, there's a robot
Wait,
apocalypse.
I'm
Let's
not
fix
taking
it.
this from you. You haven't even finished watching it.
Yeah, I finished Vivi.
No, you didn't. Did she finish Vivi?
Yeah, I did.
No.
I don't
I don't think she finished it. I don't think she finished
And
it.
I know what happened. That's why it's music themed. But
You
it
didn't
is
even know
not
it was a
fully
musical
music
anime when we told you it was a musical anime. I don't believe you finished
I've
Vivi.
seen it.
I mean, but Patty, here's the thing. I'm kind of in agreement with Bree.
Yes!
Like, it's definitely
No, I get a high
more
five.
action first.
Nah.
Patty got 1911.
No, you don't get
I
one.
have no
You don't
video.
get one.
So,
I'm recording on my video. It'll work when it put it together later.
Whatever. Matter of fact, I'm the one that's editing, so I'm blocking that out. Keep talking. Keep talking. But nah, I just
Yes, keep agreeing with me.
no. Matter of fact, I'm blocking this. This is gonna be nothing but a black screen when this plays. This part right here. But I feel like this was a good discussion.
What other shows we got? Bree, you had one more, right?
Oh, I had said Odd Taxi.
Odd Taxi. Oh wow,
so
that's
weird.
so hard because it fits in
that
so many
one.
elements. I really don't know how to
But
call
also
Odd Taxi.
no.
I would say mystery. And then drama.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Like
say
a
mystery
suspense.
first. They say the genre is mystery. They just labeled it as mystery in my anime list. I'm
Which
looking at it right
feels
now.
weird. It really feels weird because it's
feels
one of those
weird,
that
but-
doesn't really fit a genre.
I mean, the whole thing is a murder plot.
It
is them trying
is.
to uncover a murder and not uncover, but cover up a murder.
But-
That's the whole plot.
But it
of the
feels
show.
like so much more than that.
because it's
It
just
is
good
definitely so
writing.
much
That's
more.
that's all it is. If you was,
It's amazing.
I feel like if you were a writer and you're writing a mystery, you don't want to just focus on set mystery. You have to be able to put other characters involved and write how they're also involved and affected by the key component of why it's a mystery. So we're able to tap into different characters and how they are connected to the taxi driver, right? We were able to do that. All of them were connected by some form, shape, or form. Every single individual is connected to this mystery, and we may not know how when we first get introduced to them, but when you start watching, you're like, oh, this is how they were connected, and it's great. I feel like a good mystery has to be like that. It has to have those key components where you're not just focusing on one thing, because I feel like that'll make the story blah. But you have to be also focused on the seasonings and the ingredients that makes the soup so great.
What about psychological as well? Like
Yeah.
crime psychological. Because there's some of that going on.
I
for
don't think
sure.
it could get psychological until you get towards the end.
Not even, because just look at
It's
Tanaka.
psychological.
Tanaka's revenge and how he just devolves into his craziness.
Oh, okay. But then that would be 4.
There's,
That would be number 4.
There's the depression of the dude whose name I forgot.
The monkey dude? The stupid friend?
Yeah, the stupid friend. Yeah, but he's depressed.
Nah, because he's stupid. He's not depressed. He's
Let me
stupid.
tell you
And
something.
because he's stupid, he's depressed. Like, you sat here, you made a fucking shit on Christian Mingle, and you lied about your age and what your income was, and you got bamboozled, as you should. You fucking pedo. Well, he's not a pedo. He's not a
Like,
pedo.
Yeah, stop. Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's weird, but he's
not.
not that. Okay, since it is Sunday, in honor of the great, we have one more, and then we'll finish this episode. Attack on Titan,
That one's tough.
right? I think technically it's fantasy, but I wouldn't slap fantasy on it as the main. I would
I
think
put action first.
I put horror
action,
first.
military first. I think.
Nah, I put horror
Yeah,
first.
action, military.
Nah, I put
Horror?
horror.
fantasy.
I put
don't
horror
put
first.
horror. If I can watch it, it's not horror.
But there's a lot of things that you can watch. Bree
Wait, but
can't
you
watch
watched
it.
The Boys and Invincible. I don't trust you.
See,
Those aren't horror.
Those are definitely horror.
They're
Those are
horrifying.
Those are gory.
but they're not
Horrible.
horror in any way, shape,
Nah,
or
I
form.
think it's horror. If anybody,
I think I just got me an invincible
If
pin.
you-
The dad's holding up the dad's holding up the sun and everything. It's great.
if you sit there and you eat somebody's mom, and before you eat them, you snap them in two, that's horror. That's some grimy shit. That is some grimy shit. I would put horror first, and then I'll put action, psychological third.
I honestly will put it largely military political, because most of the intrigue is like various coups grappling for military power.
That doesn't
organizing
happen
yourself
till
around-
season 2,
Literally,
though.
the main character slowly rises up in the ranks of the military, from like a kid trying out to a cadet to then like launching his own military force in order to battle other countries who are after theirs due to political gain.
I feel like
Like,
you don't
it's
get
a war over
Some
possessing a,
friends,
a plot of land, so I would definitely say it's a military.
that would be later. I think that would be later because the
Later?
main component is like you
So the
see
whole
the kids
show-
and
So the whole series is more military and action, but the first season I'll give you horror, Patty.
Okay.
Season 1.
Yeah, actually, it's really creepy first season.
Yeah, it's horror shit. It's very...
Season 1 when they have no idea what the fuck is happening.
We don't even know about the political standpoint of everybody in Paradise until we get to what, 2 or 3?
No, they start implying things because immediately you see a caste system, 3 different rings. You have the outer ring, inner ring, inner ring.
Nobody knows
People
why
want
about
to
the
join
rings.
the
It's just capitalism. Nobody knows
like
about the rings.
in-house police because they want to be in the safe district with all the rich people, and you can see their clothing differ between the different levels.
Yeah, but what's the
got
purpose?
The prime positions and the lower positions.
But what's the
Even within
purpose?
the different walls, you see that like political intrigue.
But what's the purpose
of
though?
The system.
Wait, but what's the purpose though? The purpose to get into the safest part of the wall is because of what? The Titans, right? Horror.
Titans are metaphors for poverty. Woo. I don't know if that's true. I just spouted that nonsense. Guys, please don't follow up with me on that.
Oh gosh. This is why I don't talk about political shit with Gabby stands. You don't know.
But actually, if you look at it, poverty is criminalized.
Yeah.
So guess where all the Titans were coming from? The poor, lower class Eldians who are over in Marley, who get criminalized punishment turned into.
But who makes them?
Who are then unable to reintegrate into society.
My sister, if you want to get into a political aspect, don't let me get Umar Johnson on your ass. First of all, who was creating the fucking Titans in the first place to cause chaos?
The people who were in power in Marley.
Right. So that got nothing to do with the poor
people. And then they used them.
We just here trying to get a fucking nugget. We're not here trying to make any political stance. They sat there, took advantage, and terrorized the poor people of Marley who were children of Amir and decided to do. The poor people got nothing to do with this. This was all controlled from who? Marleyans, right?
Yeah, I think y'all are saying the same
thing.
Right.
So my thing is this.
No. But also, I have not spent nearly enough time thinking about this to create a valid argument. But just putting that out there.
You're still a fan of Gabby.
I am, guys. I am officially a huge Gabby stan. I love her. I will bow down to her because guess what? She did not miss last week. She saw a shot and took it. And that shot she took makes up for what she did to Sasha. I love Sasha, but I hate Aaron more than I love Sasha.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Brie. Why is it that you like Gabby? Let's be honest. Well, let's dissect this real quick. Why is it that you like Gabby?
We don't need to dissect it. It's because she shot Aaron's head off. That is the only reason. I hated her after Sasha, but then she shot Gabby's head off. I hate Aaron so much. That move of seeing his head go flying brought me so
Why do you hate
Aaron?
Why do you hate Aaron? Why do you hate Aaron?
Oh my God, he's such a whiny little prick. And once again, I don't know when this episode came out, but in the episode 2 Brothers, he once again fucked up as he always does. And he's always like, grr, I hate the Titans, JK, grr, I hate Marley. And oh my God, shut up. I got such a bad impression of him in the first 2 seasons that he is one of my now all-time hated characters. Like, you have your favorite characters, I have my hated characters. And that bitch? Top of the list.
No, but
why? Is there a character you really dislike? Aaron Yeager.
You're going around in circles. We still want to know what is it precisely that you don't like about Aaron. I still don't get it.
Because he was always screaming without the competence to back it up. He was not competent enough to make up for his mouth. Even though he had gotten better, got a glow up, and had that great moment when he exploded in the middle of Marley. That was good. But he was still incompetent enough to be screaming like he did and making all these actions like he knows what the hell he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's fueled by pure rage and randomly punching stuff.
Gabby knows what she's doing.
I don't need her to know what she's doing as long as she shot him.
Nah, see, that's
again, it's not my love for Gabby. It is my hatred of Aaron and the joy I felt when his head went spinning.
I still don't understand why you hate Aaron. I don't get it.
I feel like being happy Aaron got shot is one thing. Liking Gabby is a whole different beast.
She did something I really appreciated. And I forgive her for all of her previous misdeeds.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense on why you just... I still don't get why you don't like... That's part of the process of a lot of protagonists is that we watch Battle Shonen. I'm just saying. Like perfect example.
How many Battle Shonen do I like? My chief battle shonen is Luffy, and guess what? He's competent enough to back up what he says.
Yeah, but he's also dumb.
When he starts going down, he might get beat, but he's not like screaming about ideals and wanting to beat the world. Naruto,
but that's different
he got his
circumstances.
Datebayo, believe it, but in the end, he does back up his shit. Eren, more times than not, is written to fail at what he's doing. Like, he'll eventually get it, but for the amount of trash talk he does, he is not competent enough
What
to
trash
back
talk
that
does
up.
Eren do? I never
I'm going
heard
to
Eren
kill them all. Kill them all.
Yeah,
He just
kill
he
them.
just screamed
It's
so
hard
much
to do.
about killing all the
That's
Titans.
just
He became
hatred in his.
really
Hold on.
annoying.
Yeah, but that's just hatred in his.
Yeah,
hold on, Dirk.
I'll
Hold
give
on.
you
That's just
this.
hatred that he has for other Titans, and because now he's coming to realization. Because nothing
I'm
gets
fine
full
with that.
circle.
I'm fine.
Hold on. Nothing gets into full circle with Eren because let's make it official. None of us watch Attack on Titan for the first 2 seasons for fucking Eren. We all watch it for
that
Mikasa,
doesn't tell you
especially
something?
live. No, it doesn't because there's a lot of shows that we watch and we don't watch because of the protagonist. We watch for set characters aside or side characters. That goes for a lot.
No.
Yes.
And
yes.
then what makes it worse is the same issue I had towards the end of Squid Game. Slight spoiler if you haven't seen it, you're too late. It's when a character that I find to be not competent enough for the situation continuously succeeds because the plot demands them to succeed.
That's plot armor.
Eren, even if you don't consider it plot armor, Eren had not been competent enough. He was not Mikasa. He was not Levi. He wasn't even Erwin. He wasn't competent enough
I'm not disagreeing
strategically
with you
or
with
with his
that.
physical battle abilities
I
to
totally
get
agree.
all of the leeway he did get, and yet he did get that leeway. He did keep succeeding, and it pissed me off because I feel like he did not deserve the success he has continuously achieved. Again, he's gotten
What
better. He's
success
narrowed
did he
that gap,
achieve?
but that early bit
He hasn't
pissed
achieved.
me
He
off
hasn't
so much.
achieved any success. He still has
That's
to be
worse.
in
Yet
cha-
he's the main character. Yet we're supposed to be rooting for him.
What is
I'm
the
supposed to be
goal?
happy
No,
with
we're not. We're no one's rooting for nothing. We're
No one's
just
saying you have to root
no.
for him.
No one's saying that.
him. He's the main character.
There's no
Wondering why
success.
you're
Main
rooting.
Then I will
characters-
say he has
All
All right,
too much
number
screen
one,
time.
no,
for
he
me
doesn't.
to
Number
like him.
one, you're confusing this with a sports anime. This is not a sports anime. No one's rooting for anybody. That's besides the point. The point of the matter is that everybody watches it for set story, for set reason. You just have your standards too high for the main protagonist. And I feel like you're missing the point. Everybody has a story, has a set assignment, a set to Attack on Titan. This nigga has not won shit because at the end of the day, he still has to be in chains when he's with his friends. He still cannot be trusted by anybody in the military. I don't know what
And yet
kind of
the
win that
story
is.
revolves around it because
No,
he is
the
the main
story does
character,
not
that
evolve
is
around him.
continuously put
No,
in
the
my
story
face.
does not evolve around him. I don't know what story you're reading. The story evolves around the what happens in the history of Titans in Amir. It does not evolve around Eren.
He just happens to be holding the greatest.
Yeah,
weapon
and that
right
was
now.
just so happened by
He's
chance.
in the center of it. He's the first person we see. He is as the main protagonist.
So is the
and
orb
antagonist,
to
according
your
the
eternity.
Crunchyroll Awards.
So is the
He
orb
is
to your
a
eternity,
central
but we
figure
don't sit
in
there
it.
and say the other characters don't equivalent to how impactful the
They're not
story is.
protagonists. They are not the protagonist. If someone says who's the main
I
character of
don't think
Attack
we're
on
gonna
Titan, who
get
are you gonna
anywhere
say?
with this.
Nah, let it drag on. Let it
Yeah.
drag on. No, let it drag on.
I
Let it
think,
drag
yo,
on. Let it
big-
drag on.
Yo, Patty, we had this conversation yesterday. Like, yo, when it comes to Gabby feds, it's just Republicans and Democrats. Everyone's chosen their side. It's done.
Yeah, I just feel like she's reading the wrong story, but it's okay. I don't like. I'm not looking for anybody to win in this fucking story because it's not meant for anybody to win, and that's why I feel like a lot of people are gonna be disappointed.
I'm looking for Marley to lose.
I'm not cheering for anyone.
But you're looking for
It's
winner,
a political. As a political show,
protagonist-
all of the political
protagonist does
sides
not-
aren't really doing great.
Nah, because being a protagonist does not necessarily mean that you're a winner. It just so happens that, hey, you started off the story and you're one of the key components. But that doesn't mean...
Yes! That's what I said! He started the story and he's a main component, and that pisses me off because I hate seeing him exist.
That's fine.
That's weird,
I have no
though.
problem with your hatred of Eren.
That is weird,
I have no
though.
problem with your hatred of Eren. That does not bother me in the slightest.
Yeah, but then
I
that's
get
not-
it. He
but-
wasn't
but you know
doing
what?
it.
Then that's
My
not the
irritation
hatred.
is looking at Gabby and going, yeah, this one's great. Like, what?
I won't say she's
Eren
great, but
season
she's
one.
like, she's that friend that gives you a 5 when you're out of money standing at a vending machine.
I'd rather be
She
broke.
did me a solid
She's
with
If
that.
she's the
From
one that's going to
season
save
one.
me, I'd rather be broke. I don't want nothing from her.
I don't expect her to
She's
say, but I don't
worse than
expect
Eren from
anything
season
from
one.
Gabby. All I'm saying is thank you, Gabby. You are in my good graces. because you did me a solid by shooting off that guy's head. That
Not
makes
really.
me so happy.
Not really.
That's all I needed.
Not really.
I think it's an enemy of my enemies kind of situation
Yes.
right now.
That's it. But you'll be very
And I can live
yeah,
with
but
that.
you'll be very disappointed coming in a couple of hours when you do decide to watch it. So, and you know what was you know what's fucked
I don't
up?
think so. I don't need good things to
people
happen for
have
Gabby.
made their decision.
No good
I
thing. No, I'm
don't
not
love
talking
her
about
seeing get
Gabby.
crushed by a
Decisions.
Titan.
But I'm not talking
all
about
I care.
Gabby. I'm not talking about Gabby. When you really
Oh,
find out
yeah,
what's
I
really
know I
about to
will,
happen
because
for
he's
the
the
next
freaking
episode.
protagonist, and he'll be fine. He's going to be Daijobu until whatever the ending is.
That's not it
Hopefully
either.
his death.
But
In fact,
listen,
one
at
of
the
the one
end of
saving
the
graces
day,
is as the Attack Titan, he only has a few more years left to live, and then he will die. I'm getting
So
too
is
passionate about
everybody
this.
else.
So, this has been a episode by Black Ramen. I hope you enjoyed our discussion of Invincible and fantasy genre.
hold
and
up,
anime.
no, bitch, you don't cut off the
Apparently
show
Attack on
right
Titan.
in midway when I'm about to say something. Let me just say this: at the end of the day, when you're watching this and you're listening to yourself, remember this: you still pull up week to week to watch it. Now you can close it.
And that's even more reason to hate Aaron. He drags me here every Sunday.
I mean, you could have dropped the show.
You
at
could
any
have.
point.
You could have.
I
Nobody
really
forced you to
couldn't.
watch
Y'all
the
know
show.
I can't. Y'all know
right.
I could
No,
not.
you 100% can't.
No.
Brie, you have dropped other shows before.
Yeah, you have.
That you love. Like,
You
yeah,
have a
this is
love-hate
dumb now.
relationship
I'm
for
out.
Attack on Titan, and I'm not mad. You should have just said
I'd
that.
agree, because the
we
thing
wasted
is,
20
I
minutes
do not
on this.
like Attack on Titan. I don't like it. It's not my kind of show. Y'all know I'm not big on military, and I consider this military. But the thing is, one, I can also recognize some damn good writing and some damn good animation, and Attack on Titan has both. I recognize that, and two, this show has a lot of sentimental value for me. Like,
does.
I've been wrong with it for so long since the first season came out. I had shown people. In my first year of college, I wore an Attack on Titan backpack so I can, like, signal to other words on
This
campus that I'm a
bitch
nerd so
is
they can
a
talk to me so I
traitor.
can make friends. So I don't like it, but it has
Derby.
a place in my
Derby.
heart reluctantly.
Derby. Bree is a full blown. No.
Backpack,
I don't
know
listen.
what you're talking
Derby. Bree is a full blown Gabby. You sat here and bashed the show, but yet you have merch. All right. I'm playing the outro. I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to go on Spotify and do your Black Ramen vote for Black Ramen Anime Awards. Don't forget, please do that. We're gonna try to have it as soon as possible so you can vote. Wait, hold up. No. I'm wilding. My bad. Because by the time this episode airs, the voting will be done, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I would hope so.
All right,
yeah.
so thank you for all of y'all that voted for the last of the for the episode of Black Ramen Anime Awards. We appreciate every single one of y'all. Don't forget to go on our Gmail account. Send us an email of Ask Black Ramen. Don't forget to put that in the subject title, Ask Black Ramen. Our
And your
our
name,
Gmail
please,
account.
because I'm not saying your government.
Yeah, and tell us what you want to be called as so we can make sure that everybody is safe. It's blackramenpodcast@gmail.com. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And with that being said, any final words, Bree and Gabby, Bree, any final words?
Screw you. To your attorney is a fantasy.
It's okay. It's okay. That's not what you said a few moments ago, but it's all right.
Don't backtrack
Nah,
now.
you can't.
Bree, you're
We got you
tape.
on record.
Stop.
We got you on record.
You know you accept. Yeah, you
Didn't
accept
we say
it.
something about
Exactly.
oral
I get it.
agreements? That don't mean nothing.
No, but this
Yeah,
is
it's
recorded.
not taped.
This is recorded. So, shit. I hope.
Hey, Great. Look, I get it. You want to be petty to petty back, but that's not the one.
Nah.
I
Forget
really
it.
do, but I can't.
Yeah.
All right. So, with that being said, peace, everybody. Intro out.
Hold on. I want to say my last piece.
Wait, what'd you say?
I won the argument. Ha ha.
You made me turn off the intro for that, nigga. Peace, ladies and gentlemen.